What's going on, everybody? My name is Ben, and welcome back to the bench for a brand new episode of our Military Mondays AJ-1 Savage by Roden. We're going to jump in today, guys, on the kit. We're going to start grabbing some plastic, putting things together. We're going to have some fun. So let's go ahead and grab our supplies. We have our reference book ready to go. We did pick up some photo etch, though I don't think we'll be using those today. That's more for the cockpit and the bomber navigator position. We're just going to get into the Savage, though, and we're going to start off as the instructions tell us with the wings, the landing gears, the nacelles, all that good stuff. So yeah, a little bit of scratch building, a little bit of detailing. So starting off, we're going to jump into the wings. We're going to build up the right and left wing. We're going to get the tip tanks built up, and we're going to work on the rear tail planes. After that is all done, should be pretty simple. We're going to jump into the wheelbase and the engine nacelles. That's going to be a little bit more challenging and probably will require a bit of scratch building. So let's go ahead and get the party started, jump into that time lapse, and see what we can do. All right, let's do it. All right, everybody, we are back, and so far so good. The kit is coming together nicely. I will say, though, that it's not really a shake and bake kit. You do have to test fit and really get in there and make sure everything is clean and ready to go before you can go ahead and start putting glue to plastic. A little bit of extra effort. It's just the way it is. But so far, I'm very impressed with how this kit is going together. For example, the landing gears here are fantastic. They look very close to what we have in our references. Of course, minus some of the brake lines and some of the piping, which we can add. But unfortunately, the wheelbase are pretty much devoid of detail. And there's a lot of detail that's in here. My references show a ton of piping and wires and whatnot. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to attempt to add a little bit more life to these wheelbase. Starting off, of course, with the exhaust, which is here in the plastic, just a bump on the side of the wheelbase. So that's going to have to be added. And then, of course, any sort of brake lines. There is also a fuel dump we need to go ahead and add in there, a bunch of little wires and whatnot. There's also some actuators and things that we'll have to get to later for the gear bay doors. But we're going to go ahead and get started here. It's going to be a bit of a long one because we're going to go ahead and cut some solder. We're going to get in there. We're going to add in our piping, add in our different wiring and whatnot. We're going to add in some wires there on the landing gears as well because there are some very prominent wires we need to go ahead and put in there. And then we're just going to go ahead and build up the hoses, add in whatever we can for detail detail. Then we're going to clean up some seams and we're going to clean up some injector pin marks. So let's go ahead and jump back into that time lapse. It's going to be a bit of a long one, but let's get in there, grab our super glue, grab our wires, start having some fun. So we're moving along and we've done the first wheel bay. So we're going to move over and do the second wheel bay here. And so far this kit is coming together decently. Adding a little bit of the wire and whatnot has turned out to be a lot of fun and it looks great. So let's go ahead and pick it up with the next wheel bay, add in more wires and try to copy the first one we did so everything looks uniform. All right, let's keep it rolling. everybody, we are back, and so far we have done a lot of work here for our engines, for the nacelles, and for our wheelbase. And I gotta tell you, these actually look pretty decent. I've used 0.3 and 0.33 millimeter solder, just enough of a difference to give you some varying sizes, so that's nice. I've also used my hole punch to go ahead and punch out a couple of these plastic discs, so I could use those to backfill some injection marks. There's a couple on the inside, and they're very noticeable too, so I want to go ahead and get those nicely filled. Sanding, though, is never easy when you have something that's curved like this. It's a little bit more challenging, but we got it together, and I think it looks okay. And of course, we went ahead and built up our wings, and the wings look great. I don't have any problem with those. They do require a little bit more cleanup along the leading edges, but for the most part, yeah, looks pretty good. They actually also include a wing fold line if you want to go ahead and fold them, but I don't want to do that, so I'm good with them deployed. We also finished up our tail planes, as you can see right here. They've got a nice little upward cant to them, so that's awesome. Very nicely detailed. They fit together perfectly fine. No problem there. A little bit of cleanup will go a long way with these, but so far so good. I am enjoying this model, and everything seems to be going together well. Then we moved on to the wingtip fuel tanks. Those went together decently. There was a little bit of a step between the right and left side, and the front end of that is a little bit longer on one side than the other. So I'm gonna have to come in and just kind of square them off and sand them down. If I get that nicely lined up, they look pretty decent. They slot right into place there on the end of the wings. Not sure if I'll use them necessarily, but they look pretty good when they're glued together. Moving on to our wheelbase, get you a close up here. As you can see, we did add in some wires. We used 0.3 and 0.33 millimeter solder. I like using solder because it's flexible and you can go ahead and get it kind of turned around and wrap it around things. This isn't exactly 100% accurate, but as you can see, I added in some wires, some cabling. I added in that hose on the side for the exhaust. You can see we've got some wires wrapped around the different supports. We did add these longer copper wires right here. I don't know what they do in the actual aircraft, but they are very noticeable. So I went ahead and added those in, as well as this shrink tubing right here for our exhaust. I think that's actually very prominent. It really jumps out at you. So I wanted to get something in there to make it look a little bit more lived in. And it looks somewhat similar to what we have in our references. Not perfect, mind you, but it's close enough, especially for 1/72nd scale. I think it looks much better than having nothing in there at all. So at least this way it gives you a little bit of interest when you look down inside. So I'm happy with it. This is plenty for 1/72nd scale. Let me go ahead and show you what I'm working with here in my references. As you can see, we have a lot of different piping and wires and whatnot. We do need to go ahead and get in some actuators for the wheel bay doors. We won't do that until we actually install the doors, but those are going to have to be added as well. And then of course we can see that we have piping right here with the exhaust pipe. That is very prominent in the wheel bay, and that just wasn't there in the actual model kit. So I think it's good to add that in. And then you'll also notice there's a lot of internal structure that we just don't have in the kit. So it might be nice to have a resin wheel bay insert, or maybe just take time and add in those structural details. You can also see that there's a very prominent piping that goes right from the front of the engine all the way through the landing gear to the very back of the nacelle, and I believe that's for dumping fuel. And of course you have a lot of structural detail in there as well. So not exactly perfect, but I think it's going to be passable for 1/72nd scale. But that is it, guys. We are done for today. We spent a long time out here adding in those wires and trying to get it looking a little bit more lived in, so I'm happy with it. We're going to move on next episode with some priming, maybe some painting, and then we can eventually move on to the cockpit and the bomber navigator compartment. So that should be fun. Also, again, a lot of scratch building, probably wiring, whatnot, and of course I got my photo etch. So that's going to be fun as well. So until our next episode, you guys know the drill. Go out there, get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool, and we'll see you back here on the next episode of our AJ-1 Savage by Roden here on Military Mondays. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon.